All right, guys, for this chapter, we're going to get into breaking down designs so that they're easier to understand, to put together. So how I break them down is in main elements, secondary elements, and accessory elements. And the reason we do this is it makes your brain easier to digest when you're trying to assort a lot of things together, but make it all make sense, right? In priority to what is most important. So the main element is obviously your main attraction, your centerpiece, right? Your secondary elements are like the backup dancers, the kind of thing that kind of sets off the story and kind of like starts to tell something more than just the main element by itself. And then the accessory elements are the thing that gives it character, it gives it life, it gives it context in the world that you're trying to create, the theme that you're trying to create in this design. So I'm going to go over a couple of tattoos that I've done, and I'm going to point out what my main elements were, what my secondaries were, and what my accessories were, so that in your head you can start to break down your own designs this way. So first of all, I would like to say when you start a design, the first thing you need to do is start to figure out what the main element is. What is the centerpiece? So depending on the idea that you have, you start searching for those. That's where you're going to start. So I have a piece here. You guys probably have seen this piece. You guys will see it later. I teach you how I design this in one of the example designs in this course, which is a very valuable video. So what we have here is a LA Chicana gangster style with an AK-47, an Impala, Route 66, LA, blah, 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 all these elements. There's a lot of fucking elements here. There's even smoke in the background back here, right? But it looks really dope. So first things first, when my client asked for this, he's like, I want a LA Chicano girl. I want her holding an AK, and I want her to just have some attitude, basically, right? So first things first, what do we look for? Our main element. So I look for a girl face. That's what I did. I started with the girl face. So the girl face right here, this is our main element for this upper arm, right? This is the main thing that we want to attract your eye. Her eyes, your eyes are drawn to her eyes. She has the makeup. She has like the smile. Her teeth are completely negative and all of that. These things kind of make her the show, the star of the show, right? So now, if that's my main element, now we get our secondary elements. And now we have to make room for our secondary elements. And this all is based on how you size your main element. You have to create space to tell the story. So yes, I could have blew her face up completely large, and I could have did it the whole upper arm, but then we wouldn't have room for secondary or accessories to give context to the piece. So now I adjusted where and how big I wanted her to create space, and once I found a good spot, now I was like, okay, what are my secondary elements? So I know he asked for an AK-47. We obviously have the AK. That's a secondary element. It's the thing that's in front of her face. It's very big. It's something that is integral to the entire story. It's it might as well be a main element, but it's not, because she's the one holding it. So she's the main, it's the secondary. The car, the Impala, that is a secondary. It's helped further tell the story, but it's not the main element. It's not your main focal point, but it's there to set the tone of the overall piece. Her hat is even a secondary. Actually, I take that back. Her hat is an accessory. And why I say that is, now that we're going on to accessory, let's say we have all our secondaries. So we have our AK-47. Her hand is a secondary as well. It's a part of her, but it's not her face. Her face is the main element. And then we have the car, and those are all of our secondary elements. Now, when we move on to accessory elements, the accessories are to give more context and character to your main and to your secondaries, right? So now, accessory elements would be the makeup on her face, because her face without the makeup doesn't tell the story of a Chicano clown girl as much as if she, didn't have it. Like, we needed that in there to tell more of the story, to give more context, to give more character to our main element. We also gave her a bucket hat, and it's actually a Dior bucket hat. So that alone already continues to tell the story. A Dior bucket hat says something different than just a blank hat, right? Also, we even have the bullet ring on her finger, which tells more of the story. We have this negative bullet hole with the AK-47. That's an accessory element. This is to add more detail into what you're trying to get across. Not only is there a gun, but someone shot the gun and it hit something and it shattered something. It shattered some glass. Maybe it shattered the back glass of this Impala. You don't know. But that's what makes you think. The gun by itself, cool, but the gun with a bullet hole, oh shit. There's more to this story than I thought. There's something going on here. We have the LA symbol back here. You guys can barely see it. There's an LA symbol back here. But this automatically sets the tone that this is Southern California vibe. This isn't somewhere else. This could be anywhere else if that wasn't there. If the Impala wasn't there, if the LA wasn't there, this could have been something else. If the Chicano makeup wasn't there, this could have been anything. Just a girl with a gun. But no, we needed to add more context and character, so we did that with our accessory elements. We also have a palm tree here you can't see, but this palm tree also gives Southern California vibes, telling more of the story. And then I had a lot of open space to fill in the background, so I decided to do smoke. And you guys can barely see the smoke, but it frames it really well. This is also an accessory element, because this is helping me frame out the entire piece in a way that looks cohesive. It looks good. I'm using something that is a part of the story. It's like gun smoke, cigar smoke, blunt smoke, joint smoke. Whatever your mind wants to do with it, but it definitely belongs in this story. And now with all of those elements working together, we're telling something more than just a blank canvas. And this is something you have to keep in mind for everything. I don't care what the theme is. You're going to have your main element that's technically bare and blank. It's just by itself until you add secondary elements. You decorate it, you frame it, you do some stuff, right? And then your accessories help give it even more character and context to the story that you're trying to tell. A lot of people will have like a main element, and that's fine. There's a style in black and gray where you blow up an image hella big on the upper arm, blow up an image hella big on the lower arm, and then that's your sleeve. But for us, we want to stand apart, so we need to add more layers, add more effort, add more capacity to this sleeve, because you have a canvas, you have the space to do it. Now, how do you utilize it the best it can be utilized? This is where the feng shui of tattooing comes in. Where we place things, how we size things, how we contrast things, and how we break things down to main, secondary, and accessories for it all to make sense. Like you're a master at this. Like you've got it down. You broke it down into a system that is repeatable, and now you could do anything. You could design anything, and it's going to stand apart from everybody else. Let's go ahead and look at a different design really quick, just for the same purpose. This is a sleeve I did before. This was a while ago, a couple years, but I really like how it turned out. What we got here is Jesus. We have him with the world in his hand. We actually have a whole storm landscape blending into his face up here. You guys can't see it in this photo really. We have a deer at the bottom with the silhouette and the leaf at the elbow. So now I want you guys to guess, like, what am I going to say? What's my main? What's my secondary? What's my accessory? You could pause the video now and try to pinpoint it and then see if you were correct when you return. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you did that. All right, well, let's get into it. So obviously the Jesus head is our main element. So what is our secondary element? Our secondary element is the hand holding the earth. We have the storm scenery up above blending into the Jesus face. We have our leaf at the elbow helping to transition the composition down to the lower arm. And then we also have the silhouetted deer scenery down below. Now, this deer face on the lower arm is also a main element, but it's just the main element for the lower part of the arm. This Jesus is setting the tone for the centerpiece of the upper arm because it's bigger. But then at the bottom, we also have our main element of the deer. So main element is the deer and the Jesus face. Secondary elements is the storm, the hand in the earth, the leaf, and the silhouette at the bottom. Now, what is our accessory elements? Our accessory elements are actually these thorns that I put negative back here, which I only did that because there was a lot of dead space back there. There was a lot of black and random shapes that didn't really help the design at all. So whenever I see a bunch of dark, dead space, what do? I put something negative over it to continue telling the story. So this crown of thorns, everyone knows if you see Jesus and thorns, you know the correlation. It doesn't have to be just on his head. There could be like a piece of it popping out of the sleeve that's not even near the Jesus, but it would make sense because it's of the same theme. It's like you pulling from your memory bank, trying to add in things that you know fit, and then put them in there in a way that's a little more different, playing with the composition, playing with the feng shui of it a little bit. And now this poking out seems like a creative touch, but really it's just a crown of thorns. I just made it negative. It's just a bunch of black shapes and then skin tone. And then the Jesus face comes out from behind that. And that's it. But it tells so much of the story. And then you move on, and you have the flames at the bottom to help transition the bottom to the top. The flames actually start from behind the deer and the leaf, and then they actually layer over the wrist of the hand, and then some of it goes behind. This is creating like a layering depth effect, right? This is creating something that actually looks seamless from the bottom to the top, makes it look like all one idea. And what I want you guys to know is I actually designed the upper arm by itself. And I did that. And then later on, he came back and I did the lower arm. But I didn't have this designed at that time, but I knew that I ended it off in a way that was easy to add on to. So it was very doable. And I knew, all right, if these flames are here, I know I'm going to layer them underneath whatever I do down below. And that's what happened. And now it has like a seamless look. So you always have to keep in mind how you end off the tattoos so that you could add on to them in the future, right? So that's super important to think of. Down here, what are our accessory elements? I mean, we have the orbs. All these orbs, like I have orbs in the background here. Even this lens flare kind of glow thing is kind of an accessory element because without it, the earth is just by itself and it doesn't have as much pop and you won't even know it's there. So how do you make sure it's like something that's important in the piece is you need something to pop out of it, right? So yes, the earth is kind of dark and textured and stuff, but this lens flary glow coming off of it actually makes your eyes drawn to it and you're like, oh, that's the earth right there in the palm of the hand of Jesus. And then even in the hand of Jesus, we have the puncture wound in his palm. All of these little things tell the story. This puncture wound wasn't there in this hand when I started. This hand wasn't a part of the reference of the Jesus face. These negative thorns weren't there. This earth was by itself. It didn't have the lens flare. There was no orbs in there. This whole scenery up above was a whole different reference with this waterfall coming down, blending into Jesus. All that was done by me. This is me pulling from my memory bank, trying to put things together that fit together with the theme and the idea, and then assorting them in a way that is unique and different. And it's like a quote that Picasso said, you have to learn the rules like a pro so you could break them like an artist. First, you have to understand the guidelines of what's happening here. And that's what I'm giving you now. I'm giving you guys the guidelines and understanding how to do this. Once you understand it, you can start breaking the rules. You could start doing things huge and start creating compositions that are unique using references that you would never think to use because now you know how to simplify them into something that's tattooable. All of these things are going to play into how you approach designs from here on out. This is the shift. This is how you change your mindset. So we went over those two designs. I'm just going to show you one more really quick one, and I'm going to move you guys on to the next chapter. A lot of what I'm talking about in these first chapters are going to be used in their entirety in the example designs. So don't worry, I'm touching on them now, but once you get to the example designs, I want you to listen for these key words and these key terms that I have told you now, because you're going to hear them throughout the example designs. And I'm going to show you how I applied these to my own work. And let's see what other piece I can show you real quick. This one's dope. Okay. Yeah, let's go back to this frog piece. So this frog piece, I'm gonna let you guys pause the video real quick, and I want you guys to decipher what is my main element, what's my secondary elements, and then what are my accessory elements. So go ahead and do that now. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you did that. If you didn't, you're not doing enough. I want you guys to really hone in on what I'm saying. It sounds like a simple concept, and it sounds like, oh yeah, that's easy to understand, but I want you to start to train your brain to see this in every single tattoo or every way that you approach a design. So for this piece, I knew we needed to do a tree frog. So the tree frog is obviously my main element. It's in the foreground. It is the forefront. It is the focal point. It is the star of the show of this panel of the piece, right? So we have the frog. What are our secondary elements? It looks like our secondary element would be Mount Fuji off in the background. Maybe even the scenery as a whole. The branch that the frog is on. This frog actually wasn't on this branch. I put the branch there because I wanted it to look like he was on something. He was on something else in this reference, but I wanted it to look like something better, you know, so I added this branch in there. So this branch is actually a secondary element as well. So what's our accessory elements? Now we're accessorizing. Now we're setting the theme, the context, and telling the story further with the accessory, adding more character. So I added in these kind of streaky, anime-ish, simplified negative clouds right here over this dark area, over this dark area. And what that's going to do is, without that, it would be kind of bare. It would kind of have, it wouldn't have as much flow. It wouldn't have as much character. It wouldn't end off very interestingly. Like at the bottom here, if I didn't have these here, this would just be the branch darkness just fading down, which would be fine. It's not enough for me. We have to utilize all of our tools. There was a lot of darkness. There's a lot of shading. There's a lot of texture going on in this branch and this frog. So when you have a lot of dark area and it feels like dead space, what do? You put something negative over it. And that's what I did. I found something that was streaky and thin enough to where you could see what's going behind it, but stands out enough to add another layer of detail. And I did it over here as well. So everything always plays into each other. You have to know section by section, layer by layer, element by element, how are they working together to contrast each other, create depth, create a story, create context and character. These are all key words that I need you guys to write down. Because while you're designing, it doesn't matter what it is. You'll see in the example designs, this type of stuff my clients texted me. And these are the type of things that are very loose. Some of them don't even give me a huge heads up on like what exactly they want. Sometimes they'll just explain some general idea and you have to pull something out of that. That's where your storytelling comes in. But you can only storytell if you know how to structure a design. And what I'm doing here is I'm teaching you how to break these down into a process that allows you to repeatedly create objectively good designs that tell a story. So your notes for this chapter are main elements, secondary elements, and accessory elements. And doing it in that order will allow you to properly proportion everything, create the proper contrast so that they stand apart from each other, and then create a sense of distance or depth to the piece, which helps invoke an emotion. And accompany that with the chapter about solid black shapes and negative shapes. You're going to create enough solidity and brightness to make the things pop that you want to pop and to make solid what you want to be solid, to hold up over time as it heals. Going into the next chapters, I want you guys to keep everything else in mind. All of this accompanies together. Everything comes together to be your tool belt. That's why I want you guys to take notes and refer back, rewind, and watch it again. These are your tools. And the more you have them down in your head while you're designing or while you're tackling a tattoo, the more you're going to understand what you're doing as a process instead of you figuring it out as you go. No longer are you going to figure it out as you go. You're going to take control of what you can, which is your process. I'm giving you the tools. You just have to take them and use them and remember them and practice them. So let's get on to the next chapter.